Hey y'all, it's Diana again. How y'all doing tonight? Well, I guess you can see by the title that we're going to talk about tranny, a word that causes people to go apeshit crazy in the transgender community. But I can tell you, of all the trans people that I have spoken to personally since this issue came up several years ago, none of them found offense in the word. None of them. But of course, we lived within the gay community, and we knew that it was not a slur. Only the come lately trans people, transgendered people, many of those who lived the majority of their lives as men, many of them being husbands and fathers, all of a sudden take control of the whole community because we are too stupid to control it. We didn't want to control it. We just wanted to be a part of the world, the part of the regular community at large. We didn't need all this big community stuff that they consider they've got to have and control it. So now you can't say the word tranny or you're being offensive. Oh gosh. The first name that people called me was Miss Really Real, you know? People would come into a club and they'd say, well, who is she? Is she a drag queen or is she a real woman? They would say, oh, heck, that's a tranny. She thinks she's Miss Really Real. And they didn't mean it as a compliment, of course, but they really didn't mean it as a slur either. And we did not mind because we like to be differentiated from the drag queens. We wanted them telling people that we were not like them, you know? And it's not that I ever said I'm Miss Really Real. It's just I made them understand that I was a woman. You know, I like to hang out with them, and at that time, the only place that us trans people had to go before we got brave enough to go into the straight world was the drag clubs where the drag queens hung out. And of course, we didn't want our butts kicked by these men in wigs, so we tried to be friends with them. And but we liked them to understand that we were not the same, you know. Uh, so we took that term and wore it proudly, you know. It was much better than me saying, well, she's a drag queen, you know. But, so I do not, and none of the people I've ever associated with personally have taken any insult from the word tranny. So you can call me that anytime you want to. And since I'm 63, you can call me Granny Tranny anytime. It does not matter to me. So, now we can talk a little bit about my name. I told you in the last video that my name was not Diana whenever I first left home. My name now, when I listen to it, I think it's kind of comical that I would ever even think of using that name. But it was Lola. I have always been a big Marlene Dietrich fan. And she sang this one song, Lola, Lola. Lola, Lola, lives for love. I love that song. And I love that name. So that was my first name. Of course, my last name was Beaver, and I was Lola Beaver. And so when I started going to the drag clubs, and the night that I had to do my first stage show, which was a talent contest that I won doing a cabaret number, they said, well, what's your name? I said, it's Lola. Oh, you've got to have a last name. So I thought for a second, Lola Diane. So, my name was Lola Diane. But everybody they thought it was much easier to call me Diane. So I did get people to start calling me Diane. Not that I asked them to, but they just thought it was easier than Lola or Lola Diane. So from then on, I was Diane. So then when they wanted me to be in the house show of the All Transsexual Review, they changed my name again. This time it was changed to Diana Desiree, Diana of Desire. So I was Diana. And so when I had my name changed legally, I had it changed to Diana. Diana Jean. Jean comes from my favorite cousin, and some of you people have heard me talk about my cousin Jean that I hang out with all the time. That was her. It's both of us have a middle name Jean. Her name is Charlotte Jean, and I'm Diana Jean. We're the two Jeans. So, that's how I became Diana. And I've used it ever since. But my mother and all my family, they had already learned to know me by Diane. So up until my mother and my aunts and uncles passed away, I was Diane. So I never tried to make them change it just because they changed it for a show that I was in. But that's how I came up with the name Diana. So what is in a name? My name evolved. It wasn't the original name I picked, but I became Diana, and the name fits, and the name feels right to me, and I like it. I think that we sometimes should sort of, try on some names before we make that actual decision of what will be our permanent name, because we may not like it in the future. Once we've used it for a while, we may decide we don't like it too much. The way it sounds, the way it sounds when other people say it, So I like Diana. I think it's elegant. I think of Diana, Huntress of the Moon, Lady of the Earth. What a woman, Diana. That's words from a song by Jefferson Starship. And of course, I'm really big into mythology, so the Greek goddess Diana, I really like that. And of course, Diana Ross, Diana von Furstenberg. She's a fashion designer, and I used to wear her clothes in the 70s and 80s. And since her name was Diana, I was proud to be another Diana. So that's the way it goes with names. So why don't y'all say something in the comments? Y'all just aren't talking like you should. You aren't. I guess either you don't like me, or you don't like my subject matter, or I don't know. But I'd like you to put some comments down here. Some likes, sub to my channel, click on the little bell so that you can get some information whenever I make a new video. You can come over and see what kind of crazy crap I'm putting up here, because this is what I'm going to do until I get tired of it. And this is what I have to offer to the transsexual, transgender community at large. I am a nut. You'll learn that after time. You'll learn that. I do like to do glamour at night, especially. Not so much during the day, because I live in the country. I live in a very rural area, and I'm rather plain. I try to wear more makeup now that I've gotten older and wrinkled and looking pretty rough, so I wear more makeup than I used to wear on a regular basis. But at night I like to play with makeup and hair and wigs. Hey, they make wigs for women, so we can wear wigs too. You think I have a lot of wigs? You should see my cousin's wig collection. Oh, my stars. So, women love wigs. It makes everything so easy. You can change your style so quick. And y'all know, I don't know if I've told y'all this. Some of y'all know, that people who've known me for years and years, that in the 70s I did some modeling. And in the 80s I started doing photography. And because I had been a hairdresser and makeup artist, I've done makeup and things and costuming for years. I love doing makeup, and I worked for Belk department store in Uptown Charlotte in the cosmetic department, and I did makeup too for their fashion shows that they had. And because that's the reason they gave me the job, because they liked the way I looked in my makeup. I started in that store in the bridal stationery department, but I got an upgrade. And that was in the original Belk store in downtown Charlotte. I mean, this is the original store that opened in the 1800s. So I was real proud. That store's been demolished now. It's not even there. There's something else, some other buildings there now. So, you know, it made me feel proud to work in that store and to work in the cosmetic department. Yeah. Girls would come in there. I'm talking about trans girls. A lot of times they wouldn't even speak to me because they was afraid they would try to give me away because I was working in steel. And they would parade by and just look at me at a distance. And I knew they knew by the way they were looking at me, especially the black girls. And I've told you before about Miss Waddell and Miss Ezel. These were friends of theirs. And they'd come by and just look at me, standing up there looking beautiful in the cosmetic department. I'll never forget when I worked there. Me and Cherise worked fashion fair. She was a black girl who worked fashion fair. She was a genetic born girl, a Gigi we used to call them. I hate the word cis and I refuse to use it. I would rather use Gigi. It's genetic born. So we would go to the millinery department. Belk's had a millinery department back then. And we would borrow a hat that would match our outfits. And we would go looking all stylish and look like Vogue models in our hats because they were really fashionable back in this late 70s and 80s. Yes, we sold a lot of hats from the cosmetic department. So we had a blast. So that's my little talk for tonight about names and how important they are and how unimportant they are. And yeah, give me a comment. Bye-bye now.